Welcome back to the breakdown, guys. And today I have with me Hannah Kesler, and I'm super excited to interview her because we do have something in common, and we work inside the same field, the same industry. And so I'm excited that whenever I can bring somebody on, they can express it from their point of view. And of course, Hannah can break it down for you from her perspective and maybe even do a little bit better job than myself. So that's why we have the breakdown. Hannah, welcome to the breakdown.
Thank you for having me, Robert. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And we were having some connection some connection issues. So I was just joking to Will. I was like, man, I don't think our introduction is going to be as strong as the last one because we had to redo it. But if, to the people that's watching, thanks for the new subscribers. We're definitely trying to hit 100 subscribers on the channel now. So we're doing $100 giveaway when we do get to that point. So make sure you subscribe. And so Hannah, tell us a little bit more about of course, your infinite banking journey and kind of what got you here.
Yeah. I grew up, right? So y'all heard my father's story. He was on here, Britt Kesler. I grew up in the Kansas City area. And, so I imagine Pops went through his story about, how he heard about this concept. And so really brought it around the kitchen table. And that's how I got involved. And so now I actually reside down here in Daytona Beach, Florida. And so what I did is actually around the ages of like 18, 19, mom and dad called me up one day. And at that time, I was doing a little bit of college. I was actually pursuing my accounting degree. I was thinking, hey, maybe I want to go be a CPA or something like that. But, I just really didn't feel fulfilled. And so I was a waitress at Cracker Barrel down there in Kansas City. And so mom and dad called me up and they said, hey, Hannah, we kind of need some help in the business. And would you want to help out? And I was like, all right, well, I'm not really doing anything, so let's see where this next journey kind of takes me. So I started off and doing actually applications. So and that's kind of the connection there between Robert and myself is that so over here at the Money Multiplier, we have what we call the apps and maps team, where what we do is we help folks design these policies properly for this banking concept, help them obtain the policy, and then, hey, now that you have your new banking policy, how do I use it? How do I really incorporate this process of me being my own banker? So that's where I kind of started. I kind of started it from like the ground up, more of like the dotting the I's, crossing the T's of like the paperwork stuff behind it. But now being in this whole world for almost 6 years, I just spent the last 2 weeks going to Anaheim. I was in Birmingham, Salt Lake City, Utah, and so now I'm going out and speaking to folks on this concept and how to really take back that control of your monetary system. So I know that wasn't your question, but just a little bit background about myself and kind of how I got into this whole world. But really, in my opinion, I think if you stand in front of a mirror and when you breathe, you fog it up, I think you need to understand that how the banking business in your life operates. And so that's what we're here teaching is how to take back that control of your personal monetary system and to just stop giving up that control to the Fed, the banks, and the government. You got to be responsible and in ownership of what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely, Hannah. And to speak to a couple of different points of what you just said, man, that's crazy. Guys, she's talking about taking financial responsibility. So I know one big thing is we talk about like financial education. We talk about learning different things and even like better investments. What are we talking about? We're talking about finding better investments, but you yourself are the best investment. So, that's what I love about infinite banking is you are what makes it possible. Like literally you are the bank. So what infinite banking is, okay, so let's build a foundation around that. You might be new to the channel. We're talking about whole life insurance designed for banking. So we're not designing policies for dead people, as I joke a lot on the phones. Death insurance is what I like to call it, because we're just talking about some big number that you'll never see. We're trying to have access to that death benefit number as much as possible while we're alive. That's the way the policy has been designed. And that policy is nothing more than just a simple regular whole life policy, but it has been designed and manipulated for cash. Okay, so it's made for banking to have the functionalities of a banking system so that you can utilize your money right now while you're alive instead of waiting. And of course, you can't spend money while you're dead. I never seen a dead person in the mall. And Hannah, it kind of brings me to what I was going to go into next, talking about your dad. And it's funny when you were talking, like the analogy that you gave with, you know, standing in front of the mirror, it just, I could kind of see it in my head, and it made me laugh because he has that same sense of humor. So it just, you know, just with how, I guess, so to lead up to into you kind of told halfway. I'll tell my half is that I started the opposite way. So I started from the outside in. So I had my banking policy already. I'm learning more about infinite banking through reading Brent's book, and I'm coming into it. Me and Brent talked on the phone. Brent got me started. I went through the Money Multiplier to get started, and now, long and behold, I'm a part of it, and I'm helping other people do the same thing. And that's how I met you, of course, because we're on the application team, and I'm like, at first, I'm thinking Hannah has to be maybe, you know, late 20s, maybe 30, right? Something like that. Hannah is definitely younger than me. So I'm like, okay, wow. So to meet somebody, I'm like, okay, we're the only two young people really a part of this. And so yeah, it was definitely good to meet you, because inside of our industry, of course, there's not a lot of younger people that's really motivated to do it. And so that's probably why your parents asked you to come be a part of it. And of course, like you said, you weren't doing anything too important. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about, like I said, is just, you know, the relationship with your dad, and kind of, do you think that maybe being a part of the business and doing infinite banking kind of brought you guys together more so, like, as a family?
Mhm. No, I would say it does. However, though, you know, there are the moments. I kind of joke though, when people come up to me, they do really admire and say, "Brent, you must be so excited that you're working with your daughter, you're working with your son." Because actually, my brother, he's my younger brother, he's our pilot. You know, so he went to school for aviation, and so now he will fly us around to these different events that we have to go to. And so people will come up to dad and say, "Hey, I think that's pretty cool that you're working with the family. You're keeping it within the family. This is the family business." And so I always joke and I say, "But you really don't want to see what happens behind closed doors, okay?" Because let's be real. Sometimes when you're working with family members, they will just say things to you that they would probably not say in that blunt or harsh of a way to somebody else that they don't have that personal
I gotta send
relationship
this
with,
episode to my
right?
dad. Yeah.
Yes. And so, and even sometimes, like if I don't want to talk about work, or if he doesn't want to talk about work, I'm like, "Hey dad, I have my daughter hat on right now. I don't have my work hat on," right? You got to set those boundaries. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard. And actually, that kind of makes me think too. I mean, even during like this COVID kind of times that we were in, being indoors, kind of locked up all the time, and having your office basically be your living room, your bedroom, and also your kitchen, right? You got to set those boundaries within your life cycle too. But
Well, that's
it's
powerful.
fun. It's fun.
That's powerful. What's crazy is I think of infinite banking like a cycle, because it's like you're just recycling your wealth. So rather than it like come in the front door, out the back door, that's what we're doing with our money most of the time, right? So we make money from whether it's through a paycheck or some kind of revenues or whatever the case is. We take that money, we put it inside of someone else's bank, and they use it to benefit themselves. They don't pay us any interest. And meanwhile, we just spin until we're back to zero. So Jonah and Jeremiah, they call it the back to zero, or the AKA like the zero sum game. And so really you're just saving up only to spend it and go back to where you were. And so I think like you were saying, like with the cycles in your life, that's kind of like infinite banking is that same way. You're taking money, you're putting into your policy. It buys you an exponentially larger number, which is called the death benefit, because we're talking about a whole life insurance. Doesn't matter when you die, they're guaranteed to pay. And then from there, we're just borrowing from that number while we're alive. And we're able to do that in a way more feasible way that's built and designed for banking, because it's not just a regular whole life policy. And so I think like we have to teach this to people and help them separate that. And I think from like a regular, what they're traditionally, accustomed to, and then we're trying to help them through that next cycle of finances inside of their life. And so, like, when you're talking about, like, you got to separate all this stuff, whether it's business and personal, whether it's just your life and your lifestyle and what you're doing in terms of like how you spend your time. That's important. Like, as somebody's going to watch this, they're going to see this and they spent time to maybe educate themselves versus doing something else. So, that's big. Dive a little bit more into, like, how do you personally use infinite banking in your life? What are some of the things that you've done with your policies?
Yeah. So, and actually, I'll add even on to your last comment that you said there. Everybody needs to understand the banking business within your life. And I'm glad that you have this community here and folks are willing and just open and receptive to new ideas and new concepts, because taking it back to having that personal responsibility, you need to understand the banking business within your life. You finance every single thing that you buy. You either give up the interest that you could have earned, or you're paying the interest to somebody else. So that's very, very powerful, and things that we can just keep exploring off of it. But since I got into this whole world, so it was 18. All right. So you got to be 18 in order to own a policy. Not saying that you can't put a policy on somebody who is a minor, somebody who is their guardian or over 18 just has to own it. But in order to own a policy, you got to be 18. And so at that time, it was actually I was still had my job at Cracker Barrel, and I was putting away dollars just into a regular savings account down at the local bank. And at that time, I was just putting away $400 a month into that bank account, that savings account. And dad came to me and he said, "All right, Hannah, so since you're 18, I know you're saving money over there. What I want you to do now is take out that 400 that you were putting in there, start your first policy with it, and now start by putting your 400 a month into that first policy." And at 18, I don't know too much about this banking concept. And I'm like, "Dad, well, why would I buy this stupid life insurance policy? That makes no freaking sense." And he's like, "All right, just trust me, just trust me." And I was like, "Okay." Because I get it, right? I mean, I can see all of the success that people have. You got to follow people's success, okay? You can't follow all the big hat, no cattle, all that noise and talk out there. We all have a broke brother-in-law, right? So so I was following that. So actually, my first ever purchase with one of my policies is this MacBook computer that I'm talking to y'all on today. So these suckers, they're like $2,500,
Ooh,
And
yeah,
so what I
you don't
did
have to
is
tell me.
yes, and all I did is I just built up the dollars in there from that savings. And rule number one too, treat yourself like your number one asset. Just like how Robert said, you need to pay yourself first. And that's what I do. And those are my premiums that I put into those policies, is I pay myself first. And then now I accumulated that cash bucket. I went down to the Mac store and I bought my MacBook, or the Apple store, I mean, right? But I went down there and then I bought my computer, and then all I did is I just played that honest banker with myself. I paid myself back. I saved back up inside of my policies, prepping for other opportunities. And so just to fast forward, what I've accomplished up to this point, I did a home remodel that I just got done. This is my new podcasting room that I'm talking to y'all from. I updated my master bathroom, bedroom. I actually have a conversion van. All right. So last year I went out and I got myself a conversion van, and I converted the whole back of it to that RV living style. And so what I like to do when I'm not teaching this is I like to go out on the road, go to parks or go to festivals and stuff like that. And then now, my next really opportunities that I'm looking to do this year, 2023, is my goal is that I want to increase my passive cash flow. So I'm really looking into private lending, doing more of that, and then also note investing in real estate, but using my policy money to do so. So a little bit of high level.
Yeah. You taking us up there. So what's crazy is I laugh because you were like, my first policy is $400 a month, and I'm 18. I was 22 when I started, $300 a month, and I was clinching. That was big. That was big for me. So the thing about it is that now looking back, like I'm sure both of us feel the same way. That's laughable almost, like, because we know it's like once you really understand the banking concept, you really understand infinite banking.
Mindset too.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Your paradigm has to change, and it takes you through like I think like it helps you grow up financially almost a little bit, because it's like it makes you have to play the long game. And what most people with their wealth is they need fast, 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 fast. So when you tell them that over time this money is going to grow with uninterrupted compound interest based on it being in your policy, and you'll have more and more and more and more equity over the course of your lifetime. What people are really hearing you say is, I have to wait. That's all they heard. But in the reality is, name another place where you're going to put cash where you can save it and spend it at the exact same time, and more importantly, you can do it right away. And that's the thing about it, is that people get caught up on that. Instead, I tell people, hey, you need to be thinking about, what are you going to do with the policy? You need to be saying, hey, where I put money right now, I don't save it, because saving means that your dollars actually grow. Okay, so these dollars that you have inside your traditional bank account are not growing. So you're not saving, you're losing, according to like how kind of Robert Kiyosaki explains it, based on inflation. And if you read R. Nelson Nash's book and you study R. Nelson Nash, he's an Austrian economist, and he talks about how the currency system is inflated and how it's being controlled and different things like that, and why you need your money to work just as hard for you as you do for it, as I like to say. And so, that's awesome that you're, like how you're saying, you're putting your money to work, you're doing some of the things you're already going to finance. And that's even big too, is that people don't realize, like you said, you're going to finance these purchases one way or another. You're either going to use your own bank or you're going to use someone else's. And people don't understand opportunity costs. So they think that the solution is, oh, well, what they're saying is basically, the fact that you finance things through the bank, and if you pay that money back, you lose that money plus more. Oh, well, I can just pay cash, right? Well, you should have another opportunity cost. So if the cash was somewhere where it could be saved and grow uninterrupted with interest, versus you using that cash to make that purchase, now you don't have the cash, but you just have some things. And so I think that a bunch of us are going through our lives now. We're going to end up with a bunch of stuff, but we won't have any cash, and we definitely won't have cash flow. So like you were saying with passive income, I'm right there with you. Is this year, it made me, the ending of last year coming into this year made me realize is that I don't want to make a bunch of money and then have to go make a bunch of money again. I want to make a bunch of money, invest into some stuff that can continue to make me more money than without me having to physically do that or actively be a part of something. And our policies kind of help do that. They like jump started. They put the oil in the engine, so to speak. But we still have to drive the car. And that's what people fail to realize, is that the banking system is not an investment. This isn't an investment. This is a banking system. You don't think of your regular account as an investment, right? It's just a banking system. And then from there, we need to deploy our capital to do some of the things like what Hannah was talking about. So I do like the background, Hannah, right? And it says, do your dollars, what does it say? Make sense? Is that what it's saying?
Do your dollars make sense?
That's fire. That's fine. And you got the R. Nelson Nash. I see you got the become your own banker 5th edition. Yeah, go ahead and you doing your thing. That's nice. You got to come through South Carolina or something inside the van one time. But yeah, that's.
I was thinking about that. All right, I got you. I'm going to be hitting you up here this year. So I say sometime like April, May, I'll be hitting the road again. I just like to bounce out of Florida in the summer months. It gets a little hot down here.
Does it? It gets annoyingly hot sometimes in Florida. So diving into that a little bit more is we've been fortunate enough to travel and talk to people about what it is that we already do and what we're passionate about. And of course, we help people get started with this. And how is it being younger? Do you think that we have an advantage over other people the younger we get started? Like your dad got you started like fresh, 18, before you made a lot of your bigger purchases. Like literally you purchased your first MacBook or whatever through your policy. So like think about that. Like he saved you from going out there and making a bunch of like purchasing cars and houses and all this other stuff without being able to finance it through your own system. So I think we have an advantage. Speak to that, us being younger or people in general being younger when they get started.
Yeah, well, so here's one thing. When you're younger, you can adapt and change and create habits easier than when you're older, right? Y'all have heard the saying, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," right? So, so I think that's really good, lack of better words, from that perspective of that when you are younger, it's easier to rethink your thinking. So that's actually rule number 5 of what Nelson Nash teaches us. He says, rethink your thinking, because this whole concept, honestly, it's really not that complicated. Nelson Nash even tells us it's the highest form of simplicity. What's so hard about it is that we've just been programmed and conditioned since day one to be consumers of the banking cartel. I'm going to call it that. All right. In my personal opinion, I think the fractional reserve lending system is a big cartel, but we can get into those politics later.
I think you have an amen corner over here, because if I put out some fake current, we use fake dollars in our cups all the time, but if I spent it at the store, they're gonna come lock me up. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yes. And so we just have been programmed to be those consumers, consumer mindsets. I'll actually be honest with you right now. I'm getting a little sick and tired of the scarcity mindset that the American public is in right now. I get it, because y'all are plugged into the news, and inflation is high, prices are high. You guys understand what's going on, but why? You never take a second to sit there and think, hey, well, why is this going on? Right? So it's just our duty, I feel like, that we understand now what is going on in our monetary and economic world, that I want to spread the message so that people can wake up and stop being those sheep and following what the elite want us to do. So I kind of forgot how I went down that rabbit hole. What was the question again?
Following you like step by step. You're holding my hand right now, because like what you're talking about is like, I try not to go off into those kind of tangents, but I literally feel what you're saying so much. And it's because we have like this herd mentality, but we have it about all the wrong stuff. Like, perfect example is we had a cervasis sickness, for to use a word that's not going to get you kicked offline, is the past couple of years, I'm sure everybody, the modern day plague, it happened, right? And we did not use herd mentality for that. We instead said we need to separate ourselves. We need to be afraid. We need to trust the science that wasn't actually proven science at the time. So we and then everything got walked back a few years later. But nevertheless, we didn't use that. We used the mentality for all the wrong things. So if it's something like, hey, everybody should go buy XYZ stock or whatever the case is, or, a lot of people will bum rush to do some of the same things. But when it comes time to the more individual stuff that really impacts our lives, we don't go to the source, or we don't care about it enough. For like perfect example is people, they pay other people to fix their credit. The reality is, if you went to the source of your issue, you really need to fix your banking problem. Because if I fix your credit and you still have bad monetary habits, you'll just have bad credit again. And on top of that, too, you could actually fix your own credit through sending in some letters and stuff like that. But
Robert, it's kind of like having liposuction and then not changing your eating habits and then wondering why you gain all the weight back.
well, I mean, we do have a lot of surgery and stuff that's going on in modern day times. It's like I said, the world now is, I think that we just pop a pill for everything. And instead of us saying, hey, why don't I change what I put into my body? We just try to alter the chemistry of it. And I think that's what we do now too, is like, even when talking about infinite banking, because what I was really more so asking you is, hey, from being younger, how is that an advantage? So you took it to something on a way higher level, which I enjoy, especially when we have these conversations. But I was thinking about that, but I was speaking to like the fact that, okay, we're younger, so the money has more time to grow and compound, and and you're healthier, different things like that. And of course too, you haven't made some of the larger purchases that you're going to make in your lifetime. But
Oh yeah.
to hear like what you were saying is in terms of like the mindset, controlling your mind and the way you think, right now, being younger, you have a lot of programming when you were being reared to being an older adult. But if you can
Yeah.
start to break some of those chains mentally and adopt your own system moving forward, you'll take a completely different path than other people. And I think that that's what hurts a lot of people. And I know that we're younger. We talk to people on the phone. We're talking to people 10 times, I'm not 10 years older than us and almost twice our age. And
Yeah.
what happened? The difference is by the time they understood where they were going wrong, they were already too far down the wrong road. And so that's powerful, speaking to what you were saying. So yeah, I mean, if you want, yeah, you can please finish your thought on what you were saying though.
No, that was perfect. No, because I'll be real, right? The sooner that you start this stuff, the sooner that you're allowing your dollars to grow and compound. So and actually, that kind of what you were telling me, it made me think of a quote. Actually, I actually picked this up when I was in Birmingham at the annual Nelson Nash think tank, and somebody went up there and they said, "Hey, if everything that you've been taught about your money, your wealth, your finances were false, when would you want to know? Would you want to know today, next year, 30 years ago? When would you want to know? Right? And so that's what we got to stay tuned in on. And that's why I really think it's us here with our purpose of spreading the message. But anyways, since we are younger, right? I mean, we have time on our side. So personally, I mean, as we're sitting here talking today, I'm 23 years old. So I haven't even hit that quarter stage of my life yet. So I was actually having like a quarterly life crisis there for a second because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even I'm getting up here and I'm 25 years old. It seems like just yesterday I was 18.
Oh, well, I'm 25
But
now, so you making me feel like I'm like I only got like 75% left. Is what I. That's what it feels. That's what it feels like right now. Yeah.
but so because we're younger though, we are starting this. When you start and you filter your money and your dollars through the policy first, you're going to earn that uninterrupted compounding for the rest of your lives. So I hate to break it to y'all, but my policies that I started 6 years ago are going to be way more efficient, and you are never going to catch up to my compounding just because I started it 6 years ago. There's another quote out there, when is the best time to plant a tree? If it wasn't 20 years ago, when is the next best
Right
time? It's
now.
now.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, and so that's yeah is that's big. And the thing about it is like I think that people and you have multiple policies as well as myself now. So like we're younger, we have multiple policies, we can use them for different purposes. So I know like in your head you probably have a policy where it's like I'm thinking about maybe these two policies I use for like more like a retirement. I'll use this policy for
Yes.
this, and so on and so forth. And like you might even have those designed a little bit differently. I know I've heard you speak about that on some calls. So you're like that's the thing about that I liked about you too is like we're younger, but we want to be on game, so to speak. Like when we get around older people, we don't want to just be in the room. We actually want to know what's going on. So like that's what I liked about it. I was like, okay, yeah, I like somebody like younger, but that has like initiative and they actually want to know what's going on and stuff like that. And so it's crazy that you even hit it like, and like I said, I just that you took it there when you were talking about that is we have to break what we think we know for what can be what's possible to know, because a lot of times we think that our cup is full, and if it is, you need to pour some out, because kind of like you were saying is when would you want to know if everything you knew about money was incorrect? I have an even better question.
Tell me.
If everything you knew about money was correct, why are you where you at now, where you are now in your life? Why don't you have the results that you want? because we all know about 401ks, we all know about Roth accounts, we all know about IRAs, all this other stuff. And it's like every time I have a conversation with somebody about infinite banking, they bring up investment accounts, or they bring up all this knowledge. Well, I'm sorry, it's not knowledge to me. It's just information, because it's something that's general. Knowledge is something that you can take, act on it, and it positively impacts your life right away. And that's what infinite banking is to me. It's knowledge. Why? Because when people hear it, they treat it like it's some kind of magic trick, when it's not. It's a 200-year-old concept of whole life insurance that's just simply been manipulated and designed for people that are alive versus deaf, which is what we've been preached and programmed to think. And that's why people don't get it. It's life insurance, not death insurance. And so, that's huge. But guys, dive in a little bit to recap kind of what we went over. It's talking about, why you are your best investment. And of course, that's what we believe. Better investments equals a better future. You yourself are the best investment. And that's what I like about infinite banking. Me and of course Hannah share that in common. Not only do we do it, we're infinite banking practitioners, which means that we can help start people with the concept, help them from start to finish of no policy at all to actually having a policy set up and designed for banking. Hannah, I will be leaving some links in the descriptions for you and kind of show people how to get in touch with you and follow you. And especially if I was like a younger lady, I would want to go and follow Hannah and see what's going on, because Hannah does a lot of traveling and just some cool stuff. So like I would want to see that, just to like kind of like say, okay, I want to kind of like, I can model myself after that. Like I would say she's a pretty good role model. So yeah, as you are your best investment. And that's what I love about infinite banking, is that you are the bank. You pay yourself first, just like Hannah said, and you create through the money that you already going to save. You're not getting a new job. We're not working more hours. We're not making an investment. We're not becoming entrepreneurs overnight. But what we're doing is we're simply just placing our wealth somewhere and storing it in a different place where it can work for us better, and more importantly, work just as hard for us as we do for our wealth. And so, guys, I appreciate everybody that tuned in. And of course, like I said, we are doing the $100 giveaway. So when we get to 100 subscribers, we will be randomly selecting someone from the subscriber list. We will contact that individual, and there will be a $100 giveaway. And then we'll do some more cash prizes going forward over the summertime. So Hannah, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much. And of course, I look forward to the next one.
Me too. No, same here. Thanks, Robert. Bye, everybody.